When I bet, I like getting something back, even if I lose. That's why I bet with Fanatics Sportsbook. When I bet with them, I earn fan cash, win or lose, and I can flip fan cash into bonus bets or use it for new Knicks apparel at Fanatics.com. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC. It is time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time their first-round series against the Detroit Pistons, the 3 versus the 6, a team that the Knicks lost to 3 out of 4 times this year. But I don't need to tell you that because you've been watching all of our coverage this week, tell you every single angle of this, which is why where it comes to being a pregame show, there's not much to preview as far as the X's and O's in the matchups. I think Bryce Simon did a great job last night with DJ breaking down the angles of this. John and Fred did a great job going through the most important players of this series. John and Jeremy, of course, with their 3 biggest questions going into this series, which is why it's my job now to give you the Detroit perspective on what it means to be in a playoff series after the last, let's call it 2.5 decades that they've gone through. No, the Knicks have gone through 2.5 decades. It's really the last 2 decades, maybe a decade and a half. In fact, let's get the exact amount of time from my guest today. Joining me here on the pregame pod, from The Athletic, also my good friend over at Cats and Shoot, Mr. James Edwards III. James, welcome to Knicks Film School, sir.
I appreciate you having me, Andrew. I don't think I've ever asked you this. We speak once a week at least. What does GMAC mean?
General Manager Andrew Claudio. We have a loyal listener named Robert Cross who realized I make a lot of decisions here at Knicks Film School.
Yeah.
And he knew in all of his super chats in our live streams just to ask me like, hey, can we, and then absurd ask would follow. And so he kept just saying, GMAC, can we
I love that.
Get a party bus for the playoffs? And I'd be like, no, Robert. GMAC, can we go live after every summer league game? And I'd be like, fine, Robert. So it just stuck after that. And it's not the worst thing to have a nickname that you actually like.
I like that. Shout out to Robert. That's keep asking him for more things.
Yes, Robert, please do. I'll keep saying no, most likely. James Edwards, the trilogy, as I learned this week over at Knicks Fan TV.
Shout out to Nicknames in New York. They do a good job.
Shout out to Nicknames. I am curious from your perspective, and maybe this is how we'll incorporate an apology I owe you. If you feel that it's your fault or you're doing that the Pistons are where they are because you're not there anymore. And I'll explain why I might owe you an apology after you answer.
So I've been getting this a lot, primarily jokingly from Pistons fans who I'm thankful that they continue to stay up with my writing, even though I don't cover their team anymore. It's a joke that I understand. It's funny. And I know when most people are poking at me, but I always say, I got there the 2017-18 season. They had a win percentage of like 0.321 or 0.312. Bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also, you have to remember, I was there when they actually finally rebuilt and tore it down. I always tell people, go look at what they were from 2010 to 2017. And the win percentage only goes up like a tick. It's like 3.84.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I'm not the issue. And we need to make that clear. I like to view myself as when times were down, you enjoyed still reading about your team. Got you through the dark days. I'm the knight in shining armor is what I am. Damn Pistons fans.
Yeah. Damn Pistons fans. So here's the apology that I owe you because
I don't know this. Yes.
I feel like I can relate to you potentially feeling like it was your doing that the Pistons suddenly got good once you left, because the inverse of that is every football thing I root for loses. So I was a Jets fan the majority of my life, and then this year chose to opt out of my Jets fandom. And I decided to jump on the Lions bandwagon.
Yes.
And what happened in the playoffs? Your Lions, our Lions, decided to lay an egg in the second round of the playoffs, that home game against the Washington Commanders.
I did not think about this.
And so it's my fault, James. That
it is your
that
fault.
The Lions lost. Yes, it's all my fault.
I was there. I had just got to town, and we had just started interacting when you were making this decision. I was all on board. I'm always trying to get people on the Lions train because I understand, as somebody who hopped off because most of my life they made me miserable, and I just don't have. I decided I don't need to feel like that. Like, you can step away from your team and still be a fan. We had the talk. Now that I'm back, I'm trying to get more people back. And you said you wanted to join, and I welcomed you with open arms. And now I did not make the correlation that the Lions underperformed once you jumped on the bandwagon.
Yep.
And I like you so much that I'm going to let it slide. But we need the Jets to get good.
I have to go back to the Jets as well.
Yeah, you might have to go back.
I can't go back. It continues to keep going in that after the Lions lost, I was like, all right, fine, go Commanders. They then lose to the Eagles. Then, all right, fine, go Chiefs, because I'm not rooting for the Eagles. And then we saw what happened. So every football thing I root for loses, which is why I'm just going to root for my fantasy football team going forward, which, by the way, continues to lose every year that I play fantasy football. But that's that.
We'll get you a Premier League team.
That's soccer, right?
Yeah, but football. We'll switch to football.
Okay, so that's it. We got to switch the footballs.
Switch the football. There you go.
Got it. So my current football soccer team is the team on Ted Lasso, the Richmond whatevers that they play.
And I haven't seen an episode since.
Oh, you haven't seen Ted Lasso? Okay.
No, since
when?
I think you might have. I don't know. I feel like you became.
Oh, maybe. That's right. The show got canceled once I became a fan.
The show ended, and I love that show with all my heart. Now,
see, every football thing I root for. You don't want me rooting for your Premier League team then?
No, I was going to actually have you pick like Josh Hart's Chelsea or whoever's at the top of the table right now. I stopped looking at the table because Tottenham's been struggling, but we still have Europa League, baby.
So that's what we have to use my powers for good, is what you're saying in your 100%. Perspective. So just tell me the soccer team to root for, and I will root for them.
I'll text you later.
What I will root for in this series is hopefully a Knicks win, which that hasn't let me down too much the last 5 or so years. And it's so interesting to be on this side of it now as a Knicks fan and like a guy that does Knicks content.
Yeah.
That like we're not the underdog anymore. We're not the team that's just happy to be there. And I get that sense from some Pistons fans that it's like, oh my gosh, we have a playoff series to look forward to. We have a guy in Cade Cunningham that is getting national acclaim. But whether it be Sam Vecini put him in his top 5 for MVP, there's all this all NBA buzz for him on which team he's going to be on. Can you talk about a little bit, because as a lifelong like Detroitan as well, like being from around there, like what it means to have the Pistons relevant again for that fan base and for that city, especially we've chronicled it. 2008 is the last time they won a playoff game. Like since then, it being a very much a dry spell. What it means to have this team accomplish what they've done already this season,
man. And I think this is a perfect time to talk about it with like the Ticketmaster thing. And obviously, Knicks fans, they're going against each other. It's a series. Shit talking happens on both sides. Like they're gonna play that up. But I think it is as somebody who can give the bridge between Knicks fans and Pistons fans, there are so many similarities, and it's all positive. And there's similarities between the organizations too. So I'll start here and trying to answer your question. Both iconic franchises for different reasons, right? The Pistons have won a title in 2004. They were in the Eastern Conference Finals basically the whole early 2000s, right? So in terms of mountaintop success, the Pistons have been there more recently. But the Knicks have been more relevant recently, right? But in between those pockets, like the Knicks had 2 seasons of 17 wins. They've struggled. But always, like, the fans are insane on both sides. And I know Madison Square Garden is a different beast. Knicks fans travel. Like, that is one of the best in basketball. I don't think people know how much Detroit loves the Pistons. And, like, last year, for example, terrible season. They were still top 15 in attendance. This year, they're I think 7th or 8th, they were in attendance. I think people forget too, from 2002 to 2009, they led the NBA in attendance. That's 7-8 years. Like, this is a place that loves its basketball, but more importantly, they love when the basketball represents the city. And there's been a lot of talk about how tough this Pistons team plays, how defensive minded they are. Well, when they had their run in the early 2000s, everybody's just kind of jumped to the bad boys and talking about this. But that 2000s team was a defensive team. Like Rashid and Ben were arguably like the best defensive. Like, I don't know if you can name a better defensive front court. Like, you have Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Like, obviously I'm hyperbole there, but they're up in that conversation. Chauncey Billups, all defense all the time. Tayshaun Prince. Like, this team has the fabric of previous Piston teams. And I think that's why you've seen the city. Well, they just love their Pistons so much, but I also think that you've just seen them really get behind this team. And we've talked about it with Fred on our show. The Pistons, and I think this is actually something that people aren't considering for the series, the Pistons could get swept and nobody on planet Earth will say the Pistons had a bad season. And I think when you couple that with a team that already plays with like an I don't give a F attitude, like, that's a dangerous combination. So I think, to your point, this city, they love their sports. The only way I was going to leave to Detroit was for a town that rivals it in sports fandom. I think there are 3 or 4, 5 amazing sports towns in this country: New York, Detroit, Philly, Boston, and
Chicago. The last
Chicago.
one? Yeah.
Chicago. Like, there is a level of excitement with their teams. There's an investment with their teams. These places are cold, man. There's not a lot to do for 4 months of the year, 5 months of the year. And that's why they get so angry when their teams stink. And that's why they get so excited when their teams are good. Like, it's dark out. They want to be able to sit there and root for their team. So the fan bases are so similar. The organization's paths are somewhat similar. I think it's great. The NBA is amazing, is at its best when both the Knicks and the Pistons are good.
Huh, I like that. I've only ever heard that the NBA is at its best when the Knicks are good, and now you add the Pistons into it. I would add the Bulls into that, which takes me back. Can I give you my Bulls theory? Yeah, please do.
My hot take on the Bulls.
Yeah,
we talk about like legacy franchises, right? And there's a couple to me. I'll name them: L.A., Boston, Philly, Detroit, New York, and Golden State. And San Antonio.
Okay.
There's 7. I don't consider the Bulls. And can I say why?
Please do, yeah.
They sucked before the greatest player of all time got there, and they were bad after the best player of all time left. Like, that's not to me, winning in different eras puts you in that conversation. Yeah. And the Knicks are different beasts. Like, it's New York, right? Like, that's a different beast. But if you only won when you had the greatest player of all time and you were pretty after and pretty blah before, I don't consider you an all-time great franchise. I think they had I think they had the best run in sports history or NBA history. I don't think they are an elite franchise.
I think the place I agree with you on is that, like, the Knicks don't have the success that you can point to put themselves in the conversation with all the legacy franchises you just named. I don't think Philly does either, unless you want to go all the way back to Wilt and those fair. Like that era, really.
Borderline,
which, like they had to go through a whole decade of losing to try and like intentionally losing in order to try and become relevant again. And by the way, they still haven't become relevant.
Yeah, I don't know if actually now I think, but I don't know if I'm putting Philly, and it's been too long. I don't know.
I'm okay putting all slander at Philadelphia. That is very welcome on this show. Believe me.
I'm not wrong with it, actually.
Where I do agree with you, James, is like the run began with Jordan, ended with Jordan. And remember that game where Giddey hit the half court shot against the Lakers where they had this crazy comeback? Like, I went and watched it, rewatched it on League Pass, and I got this sense that I was watching like the Hornets, or one of these,
100%,
like one of the Magic, which is not a bad. That's not a knock on them, but not a legacy
Yes.
team. Like when I watch the Lakers, I recognize I'm tuning in to watch the Lakers.
Right.
There's prestige that is involved in that. Right. And look, dude, as much as I tease him, I get that same feeling when I watch the Yankees.
Seriously.
Like I'm tuning into the pinstripes, like the prestige that goes with that. And I don't have that same feeling for the Bulls when Michael Jordan is not wearing their jersey. There is a hint of that with the Pistons, especially when you consider the history that they've got multiple decades in which they were not just relevant, but relevant for the majority of it. It's not like the Knicks where they had this 2-3 year run with Melo. You have the entire late 80s, early 90s into the then early 2000s from 03 to 08, going to the conference finals every year. Which is why it's so fascinating to have them back and relevant. And you say the thing about they could get swept and no one would be upset. Can I ask if the actual reality is that they will be a little upset that the drought doesn't break and that they need to win at least one game in this series for this season to be a success?
I do, and that's a great question. And I don't want to, because I'm not entrenched as I used to be. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. I feel like I still have a good enough pulse on everything. I think that just the utter shock of what happened from last year to this year, I think that is enough. Do they want to see the drought end? Yeah, I think so, of course. But they're playing with house money. Anything else is the cherry on top, right? So, yeah, I think that's a great point you make, and I always forget about that. Like, it's been a while since they won a game. I covered a playoff series in Detroit. I think people forget about that. I never covered a winning series or winning team. They were 500, but certainly they want that to end. But I just think the just sheer shock of what happened. Like I haven't been around. I still have really good relationships with some of the players. I think a lot of these guys, if they're being honest, like they believe in themselves and them as like who they've gone to war with. But I think if you would have asked them at the beginning of the year if this was a possibility, I don't think many of them would say that. Not honestly, right? There's the things you say in front of the camera and things of that nature, but this turnaround's insane. And I'm happy for the people of the city, just simply because I know how much they love their sports. I know how much they're, especially in Detroit with my whole life, the Lions were terrible. And we take pride as Lions fans in being like, don't say your team is the worst team in franchise history. We went 0-16 first.
Yeah.
2 years ago was the first time I witnessed a Lions playoff win in my lifetime, and I was 31. Like we're not asking for Super Bowls. We went 31 years without a playoff win as Lions fans. The Red Wings are like the Yankees of hockey, right? But they're going through a drought right now. And then the Tigers are kind of just like, people love baseball. It's nice. You go, but it's not. I would say, I mean, they had great runs. Like Miguel Cabrera is one of the greatest right-hand hitters of all time, and I'd argue the best, but I'm biased. But they've had their runs, and that place gets packed. So I'm happy for the people of Detroit. Somebody asked me this on a podcast earlier. Like, obviously, they know I grew up a Clippers fan, but they know that I covered the Pistons for 7 years, and they're like, "Do you feel like, are you happy for them?" And I'm like, "I'm glad you asked that, because I've known Cade and Isaiah Stewart and all those, Asar Thompson, since the moment they became pros. I was right there to interview them. I got to know their families. I got to know them. And as a human being, I am very happy for them because they are good people. If they weren't good people, and I don't know if Knicks fans know this, but I think they'd want to know this. Isaiah Stewart is one of the nicest human beings anybody will ever meet in their life. He's just, when he gets in between the line, it's a job, and he the flip switch, whatever it is. But he is one of the nice, yes sir and yes ma'am, like to everybody, like just a genuinely nice guy. And so you root for the people. I'm happy that those guys, because they are good people that have treated me well and still continue to treat me well, are doing well. The people on the peripherals, like the PR people that I know who've been there since the glory days and had to go through this. The people on the business side, I'm happy for them. Just like if the Knicks win, Jalen Brunson has been awesome to me. I like him as a person. I hope good things happen to him. I hope good things happen to Josh Hart, Cat. Like, these are all very nice people. So that's where it comes down for me. Like, it's impossible to do this job if you're doing it well and not getting to know these people. And if you're a human being, like, you can't help but hope people that you like do well.
That's sweet. And like, that's really good perspective from you being in the locker room and getting to develop relationships. I just want to say to all the aggregators, he didn't not name certain people, not because they don't like him.
Let's not. I can
see like, oh, he didn't say Mikal Bridges. I wonder what's going on. No, like,
thank you.
He just didn't want to name the entire roster. He just
right. And then also you have better relationships with other people. It doesn't mean that the other people aren't good people. There's only so much time a day, especially in New York. You can only get to really know so many people covering this team.
Especially with the access that you may or may not get sometimes, James.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Exactly.
Well, I remain skeptical of this Knicks team. I'll say fully putting the hammer down against this Pistons team because of the physicality. And I feel like, I know you said this over on Bryson and Amari's show, the Pistons Pulse. And I know you and I talked about it earlier this week. I said it last night. And Bryce was like, oh, James Edwards said that the penchant for being punked that this team has sometimes doesn't allow me to have the same arrogance I usually go into a playoff series with, you know, like I went into that Hawks series with some arrogance. The Cavs series was the origins of the Knicks in 5 hashtag, you know, and then last year against the Sixers, I was ready for war from game 1. And my goodness, I felt like I went through one and I just sat and watched, you know, like the things I was ready to do for the Knicks last year. This year, it's like, all right, this team has not earned that arrogance. And it's why the Pistons, like we just went through a whole thing about how the city is proud of them and happy with them. They could get swept and they'd still get a standing ovation in game 4. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know if this Knicks team is sweeping anybody anytime soon. So throughout the course of the week, as you've been around the team and been doing your job, and through the conversations you've had, whether it be on podcasts or just previewing the series, like, has any of that thought or that notion that this team, I'm staying away from the word soft. Like, these are NBA players. I don't want to fully throw them that there. Just that, like the finesse nature. We're going to overwhelm you with
fragility.
Right. Yeah. Like, we're not going to overwhelm you with our effort. We're going to overwhelm you with our talent is what I've thought this year.
Yep.
Has any of that fear that might not be enough to make this a short series gone away for you?
Great question, as always. So I will say this. I thought toward the end of the regular season, the last few games, take out the Brooklyn game because none of the main guys played, I walked away from that like, this team has way more questions than answers than a 51 team should. 51 win team should.
Right.
I remember I asked Josh, like, the goal for this team all year has been playing your best basketball at the end of the year. And I'm not going to put words on your mouth. So I'm going to ask you, do you think you guys are doing that? And is it possible to change that with now limited time? And he went on and said, we are not playing anywhere near our best basketball. I asked Jalen the other day at practice, do you believe in a switch being able to be flipped, or do you have to look yourself in the mirror? And he gave me like a very I don't want to say PR answer, but I know what he meant. He's like, yes to both. And what I think he meant is, we do have to look ourselves in the mirror, but if we do that and are honest with ourselves, we can flip a switch. That's how I interpret it. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's how I interpret it. And just getting to know him. The other thing he said after a loss, I think it was either after Cleveland came back or the Boston loss, somebody asked what needs to be fixed. And he said, everything you guys see needs to be fixed, and we see it too. And again, I'm not putting words in his mouth, but what I've seen this year is that it's a team that has a lot of talent, has never failed to hit its peak consistently one time throughout the year. You can mention the 9-game winning streak. Like, you don't want to dismiss winning 9 in a row, but they didn't really play anybody of great standard at that point. There was just never a consistent peak. It felt like anytime a team was down against them, that they could come back. Like, we watched that Cleveland game we're like, oh, Darius Garland's doing pretty good. I don't know how much he's going to play, but if the Cavs want to go for this, they can win this game despite being down 15 points. And that's what happened at that time, right? You walk away from a Knicks game thinking they could. I think this is the issue. I don't walk away from every Knicks game thinking they can beat anybody, but I walk away thinking they can lose to anybody. What do you think? Yeah. What do you think about me saying that?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect.
I just want to, because, and it's not a knock on how good they are. The best way I can surmise it is this. I think we talk about the it factor in sports, right? I don't know if I said this on the pod with Fred or not. Nobody knows what it is, but we know it when we see it.
Yeah.
And there are players on this team who have it. I am not sure as a collective this team has it. Whatever that is. There's something missing, it feels like. And that's why I don't think they deserve the benefit of the doubt that, oh, here comes the playoffs. They have 4 of the 5 most talented players. They should win this easily. That could happen. But as we sit here and talk about matchups and cross matchups and what worked for that team will work for this team, the one thing we can't measure is intangibles. And one team has been the master of intangibles this season, which is the Detroit Pistons, which I've written several times, a team that is similar to the team that you guys fell in love with as New York fans last year and 2 years ago. I don't feel like this Knicks team has intangibles, but the intangibles, Jalen Brunson's really effing good and he can win you games because he's really effing good, right? And that's an intangible to have. He has an intangible. I just feel like as a collective, it has been missing all year, and I can't put my finger on what is. And I think we've kind of, in the conversation of talking about the Knicks, we've kind of just come to the fact that it's I just keep using the word fragility. There's some type of fragileness about them, whether it's the competitive spirit or attention to detail or the mental aspect. Like there's something there.
So I went back and watched that first OKC game on that Friday night in OKC. The Knicks had won 9 straight games. I believe OKC was on a 12-game winning streak at the time. And I left that game with the inverse of what you're talking about. They could beat anybody. They could play with anybody. That was a finals preview. They were up. I walked out of that game
thinking that too. I wrote a column about that. So we were in lockstep there.
So that team, like the team that we've watched since then, has not been here. Like I keep wondering as far as a flip being switched, can they just give me that team? Like Deuce didn't play that night. Obviously Mitch didn't play. Tibbs played all 5 starters, 40 plus minutes. And it was a night where I left thinking this wasn't their best effort, and they're not even their complete team. And they took what I think is one of the best defenses I've ever seen, and one of the best teams in the NBA that's going to finish with close to 70 wins. Yeah, they took them to the brink. Like that was an either or game with the last 5 minutes, and it went the other way. But I didn't leave thinking the Knicks were overwhelmed by the other team that was on the road.
Yep.
I keep going back to that night, and I'm wondering if you're flipping a switch, can you flip it to that? And I mean, you tell me, do you think that was just like a night that played well, and maybe that's an anomaly, or because that team could compete with Boston? I'm sorry, that team that night,
yes,
if they show up in round 2, that team sweeps the Pistons. That 100%. Team wins, at least competes with Boston for 6 or 7 games.
Yes.
Like, is that team still in there, you think?
I think it is still in there. But it goes back to what me and you have talked about on camera, off camera. Before that, after that, we just never really saw it. Mm-hmm. Now, not to say that they didn't play good. Like they ran, I mean, when I say I don't feel like they could, I feel like they could not beat everybody, but could lose. They can beat Milwaukee. They kick their ass. Like that's a matchup thing, right? Like Detroit can't beat Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. It's just like, there's just weird. Sometimes there's just teams that you struggle against that other teams don't. And it's just that's just the nature of basketball. Like it's very weird, but I never walked. There wasn't a Boston game. I really like the one where they went to overtime and should have probably won. Like, I didn't walk away like truly thinking they closed the gap.
Yeah.
I kind of thought Boston sleepwalked through some of that game.
Everyone but KP and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, exactly. The Cleveland game, like Cleveland was like ready to not play everybody, and then I think they looked up and it was like, yeah, let's play. Like Darius is kind of cooking. Like, let's send a message. Why not? And they come back and win. Like, I just think that this team has so much talent and so much, like, it should work. It should work more consistently than we saw it. Like 51 wins is nothing to sneeze at. I want to make that clear. But when you really break it down, like 15-13 first, the teams this year that finished with the winning record, and that's taking out the 0-10 against the top 3 teams. It's just, they always just kind of left you wanting more, even in those wins, right? Like outside of Milwaukee, like they struggled with the Wizards twice. They blew them out once, but they struggled with them twice. They've struggled with Atlanta. I think did they even beat Chicago this year? Yeah,
they beat them
once. At least
they
once.
Beat them once. They beat them once. The last time that was a weird overtime game.
Yeah, weird overtime.
Played. Yeah.
And it's the regular season. We can go back and see who was playing and who wasn't. But you don't make the trades that they made to not be able to overcome one injury. And I understand like Jalen Brunson, like missing time, like that's significant, right? But it shouldn't mean that like you just fall off the rails. Like if you're trading 6 picks for a guy and then another guy who's a perennial all-star, like you should be able to keep the trains on the track. And they did have a winning record when Jalen was out. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if anybody's like, oh, they didn't have Mitch for X amount of months. Yeah, they didn't. But they also added 2 top 50 players, and they should have been okay, right? Like,
if you're looking at the All NBA voting, they added 2 top 15 players. You know?
Yeah. No. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think this Knicks team. I remember that OKC game well. I think that was like my most like positive column after a loss. So I was like. And then what do they do? A week later, they get ran out of the gym in their gym by OKC.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something's missing. And I just don't know, while this team on paper should work, I just don't know if it does. And I feel like that's just like where I'm at. I just wonder if it just doesn't fit the way it needs to. They don't shoot enough threes. It's fine if Mikal shoots a bunch of mid-range, but they have other guys that shoot a bunch of mid-range. And so they lose. You see games where they end the first quarter 50% or 40% from 3, 50% from the field, 80% from the free throw line. Then you look up, oh, they're only up 6.
Yeah.
They don't shoot a lot of threes. And it's like the math game. And then you play against a team that defends, like you can find yourself in some trouble. So I think I want to make it clear they are super talented. And I don't question their want. I just question if it works. And maybe. I don't know if they deserve the benefit of the doubt to assume that it's just going to work. It might just work. I don't know, out of nowhere. I don't want to say out of nowhere. There might just the OKC first game Knicks might come back. I don't know if they deserve to just assume that that's going to happen.
Well, one way it might be able to come back is that they got a week off and they got to practice. And you clarified the other day, even though I think I was one of the people that I know I've vented to you and Fred.
Yeah, we've talked about
this all year. Like
yeah.
The fact that they don't practice, and you clarified what they don't practice actually means. If they have 1 to 2 days in between games, they usually don't practice. But if they have multiple days off, then they absolutely will practice. A lot of veteran teams do this.
Yeah.
And my contention all year, and a lot of this stems from the fact that we were in mid-December and this team looked gassed and disorganized and like before the winning streak. And Fred came on here and told John, like, they haven't practiced in like a month. Yeah. Like they don't practice. And I was like, you know what they should do? Play less minutes in practice.
Yeah, I remember.
That might be good. Like,
and you have a point. There are stretches where they don't practice, but it's because of how the schedule presents itself. So
completely understood too. Yeah. Like I completely understand that part. It's just very much like when you put the team together, when you put the team together 2 days before training camp, you know what you might want to do? Practice together. So you learn which is what I've tried to say to some Knicks fans that are frustrated with some effort and some some confusion at times of not knowing where you're supposed to be on the court or not knowing where your teammate's going to be, some coaching thoughts and how Tibbs might lean into some things that he knows he can count on, like a Josh Hart, because he's been around here. It's like you basically watch an 82 game practice. Now that they have 5 days off before their next game, and maybe for some of them 7 or 8 days off before the next game that matters, I'm wondering if just how much of an advantage, like I think it's a significant advantage going into not just game one, but this series against the Pistons. Am I off in reading it that way? Like they had a week off. Every time I've seen them have a couple days off, they came off a week away after the in-season tournament against that Minnesota team when Cat went back to Minnesota and just ran them at the gym. That Memphis game, they had the entire weekend off. And I remember tweeting it, texting you guys in the group chat, look at the just practiced Knicks, they look amazing.
Yeah.
Am I naive to think that like that's a gigantic confidence boost for me going into the series, that they're going to look like they've had a week off and practiced?
I do not think that is naive. I think that is very much important. I think teams in the NBA in general don't get a lot of time to practice. In Detroit, while I was there, they had a young team, so they would practice, right? Like that, they practiced a lot more than other teams. But I think it is important. It is, one, gives guys a chance to rest up and to not put so much miles on their body and things of that nature, but also it gives you a chance to like slow down. What do we want to be about? What are we not about? Why aren't we shooting that many threes? Are we disciplined in our spacing? Hey, we need to do that. Like it gives you a second to not just practice, but like breathe and have a conversation, as opposed to like, oh man, we got the Cavs on Tuesday and Portland on Thursday. Like you're on to the next thing. You're icing up. You're just trying to make sure you can play the next game. I think it's important just to have a second to breathe and like actually like look in the mirror as a collective and like, what do we need to address from this time off? And let's get on it. Let's make sure we're disciplined. Let's make sure that we are prioritizing what we need to be what we want to be about. So they need to figure that out. I'm sure they have figured that out, and now it's about refining that. But I want to check, because I'm actually curious. I don't know this answer, what their record is when they have multiple days of rest.
Oh, that's so much more research than I'm prepared.
I got it right here.
Oh, you got it.
I got it.
Why you're the man for the job? Please tell us.
So this is weird. So on back-to-backs, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong thing. Back-to-backs, they're 6-9. They had a losing record on back-to-backs. 1 day's rest, 34-15. 2 days rest, 7-5. So 3 days rest, 4-2. So basically, with 2 and 3 days rest, they're 11-7, which is a little not as high as I would have thought if I didn't look it up.
Yeah, I wonder what the
big wins in those 11.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's the net rating? Like it matters what the schedule is, like who they're playing during that time. Some of those 2 days later you're playing a bad team.
Yep.
Or 1 day later you're playing a bad team could dictate that. Look, James, I wanted to keep this conversation mostly a vibes thought, because I hate feeling this way about this team, and especially the Jalen Brunson led Knicks, and even like the Tibbs part of it is I've said all season I will judge him by what they do in the playoffs. I think there's adjustments he can make. I think there are adjustments I've wanted him to make for the majority of the season, and we'll see what he does. If they're ignoring Josh Hart and it's hurting them and he's still playing 40 plus minutes, then there's a conversation to be had there. But I mean, you've done a good job you and Fred did a good job the other day talking through the adjustments, all the Deuce McBride impact metrics and the gravity that he commands this season. If I can ask you the last two questions, we'll get into some prediction stuff. Who do you think makes the first adjustment in this series? It's Knicks Film School, so I have to ask some type of question. Who do you think makes the first adjustment in this series, and what do you think it'll be?
Are we talking about are we talking about an in-game adjustment, or just like a more like they came back game 2 and somebody else is starting?
But honestly, it could be both, because I think it would be as significant an adjustment if like the Knicks decide game 3, Mitch is starting for Josh, as it would be on the Pistons side. All right, we're going to guard Cat with a wing. Like,
right.
Take both of those are equal adjustments to me.
I'm going to go the Knicks, and it's going to be how they cover Cade. I think initially they're going to try like traditional pick and roll coverage, and then I think they start like mixing in like heavy blitzes and stuff like that. On the Pistons side, I think it's going to be, as you mentioned, like how do they cover Cat? They spent most of the year with a center on him. Isaiah Stewart doesn't start, but he does well against Cat. If you want to take anything away from the games, which I'm not doing, but like he did a great job on Cat in that game, and Isaiah can guard in space. But do you also go kind of the playbook everybody else is throwing out there? Do you put a SAR on him? Cade guarded Jalen for a lot of that. I just don't see that happening. And again, I covered JB's presser. I got to know him a little bit, but I didn't cover his coach team this year. I just can't imagine they're going to put Cade in that type of jeopardy, both one and tired legs when they're in a playoff series and don't really have another option, and two, put him at risk of foul trouble.
Yeah.
That would surprise me. Maybe they start it and then switch it. I think their defensive matchups are going to change relatively quickly for them, and I think for the Knicks, it's how they guard Cade. I think they try traditional pick and roll coverage, and then end up, because he's Cade and he's really good, they end up blitzing and trying to let everybody know, hey, if they're going to win, the other guys are going to beat us. I think
schematically, I agree with you that those are the two big adjustments I'm waiting to see as far as the lineup configurations are concerned. I think we see a lot of Mitch and Cat in this series, especially if they're getting beat up on the boards. I just don't believe a Tibbs team is ever going to be allowed to get beat up on the boards for over the course of a series. The self-proclaimed master of the boards is not going to allow that to happen over the course of 7 games. So it's why, like, I understand where he's coming from with Josh Hart. He literally leans into his sensibilities and principles and philosophy. The roster may dictate otherwise, but it's why we'll see what happens over the course of these playoffs. Shout out to our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook, by the way. The Knicks are currently minus 390 to win the series. And if you're picking the Knicks in 5, shout out to those who do that. The Knicks, if you pick the Knicks to win 4-1, it's plus 250. It's actually like worse odds to pick that they sweep them. So if you're saying the Knicks will sweep, it's plus 450 in this series. Now, I went yesterday and made my official pick at Knicks in 7, which is plus 400.
Ooh.
Where are you going for this series? What's your prediction?
I've been at Knicks in 6. I think ultimately the talent does win out. The Pistons do turn the ball over a lot. I don't think it's going to be a nerves thing. They just naturally turn the ball over a lot. And one thing you cannot let this Knicks team do is get easy points, because for as efficient as they are, they play very slow. Mm-hmm. They'll hit a shot, but there will be 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Like, you cannot allow them to get easy points and get going, especially with how efficient they've been this season. And then also, I think, and the biggest reason is just a lack of a true a playoff number 2. Like, I think when a team can game plan for a team lacking that for a whole series, I think that's tough to overcome. So that's my reasoning. But I've been saying this too. If the Pistons win, I think the Pistons win in 5 or 6. I think it goes back to that. We're breaking down the talent and the X's and O's, but there's the intangibles of if the Pistons come out and punch them in the mouth, and that sets the tone for the series. There is a world where I could see the Pistons winning in 6. But I have that. I'll know how I feel about that halfway through game 1, I think.
So Knicks in 6, I should say, is plus 425. So listen, if you're feeling froggy, Knicks fans, go ahead and jump on one of these lines of courtesy of our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. And look, if you're going the other way, Pistons in 7 is plus 900. So if you're betting against your team, they just have to win. I'm picking Knicks in 7. You did like game 7 just has to go the other way in order for that to happen. 2 recent playoff series that come to mind when trying to equate parallels. You talking about just a team that was heavy intangibles and just out physicals another team that may have the habit or the tendency to get lost in that, to lose that battle on the physicality standpoint. It reminds me of Knicks Cavs. That was a clearly better Cavs team than the Knicks.
Yep.
And the Knicks won that thing in 5, to your point, where it was just, we're the tougher team. We get every loose ball. We rebound like crazy. You're going to be doubling Mitchell Robinson in the paint, and then Josh Hart's going to get every rebound anyway, because that's just like, you're not ready for these lights. I don't think that's this Knicks team. I think the alternative, and the Hawks didn't have any playoff experience either, but the way I also think it could go is, as far as the talent is concerned, and it actually works the other way. Not that the Knicks are overly talented, but that Knicks-Hawks series where the Hawks just realized, oh, let's just all load up on Julius Randle.
And vibes.
Well, yeah, the Hawks
have similar vibes to this Pistons team.
So as far as the Knicks are concerned, though, the Hawks may, but the Hawks, that Knicks team, I'm saying, could also be looked at as a Detroit parallel, where we're just happy to be back, man. That especially like coming out of the pandemic, Julius Randle was a hero, finished 7th in MVP voting that year, finished second team All NBA. And then the Hawks said for 5 games, we're going to dedicate 5 guys to guard you. And then if anybody else beats us, great. And then nobody else could until Jalen Brunson showed up 2 years later.
Yep.
And that could happen too, that the Knicks just decide, we're like, Cade, take your 25 mid-rangers, take your 25 outside shots.
Yep.
We're going to make someone else beat us. And
100%. No, great
potentially point. It could go that way as well, so I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, to me, what makes this series so awesome, and again, there's a world where the Knicks win in 4 or 5. Like, I'm not saying that. I just think these two teams are the antithesis of one another.
Mm-hmm.
And in boxing, styles make fights.
Mm.
And the things that the Knicks have struggled with this year, the Pistons do well. The things that Detroit has come up against that they haven't really been able to overcome is uber talented teams. And to be fair, they've beaten Boston and Cleveland. They beat Cleveland without Cade. So, like, they've won big games this year, but they're outmatched in terms of talent, in terms of experience talent. Like, Sar Thompson's going to be great, but these guys, McCall and OG, have been there.
Yeah.
It's very much finesse versus just a little bit, like, I hate saying grit because it's overused in Detroit, but it is like, it's very much they've been the antithesis of one another this season. And I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think this is the most exciting first round series. Like, if you're a basketball nerd, I think this is going to be like a fun series.
In both conferences, are you saying?
Yeah, I think so.
So more than, I guess, the other, man, we were this close to Lakers, Warriors. If you're looking at the West, the Clippers and the Nuggets would be the thing I'd contend with. But
I just think the Clippers are way better. I do.
I was staring at Fanatics, looking at their numbers for the Clippers to win the conference, and those numbers keep going lower and lower. Like, a lot of people are on the Clippers to come out the conference.
Like the Clippers, yeah.
And
this, I grew up a Clippers fan, but I haven't rooted for the Clippers since Sean Livingston left. I still have his jersey, but I just, like, they're healthy. I think Ty Lue's the second best coach in basketball. I've been saying this for a long time. Denver, you've watched Denver when they played the Knicks. You've watched Denver otherwise. They can look awful sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, they don't give a shit. And I just can't trust that.
Did you have an awards ballot?
I did not. Popper had it. So what happens is usually one rotates on beats around the NBA, and then it's dispersed amongst national media and international media. So Popper had our ballot this year.
So if you did have an awards ballot, who would have been your MVP?
I would have went with Shea, because I think while Jokic is maybe having the best offensive season we've ever had, I've seen moments of just some of the most absolute worst defense, and I don't give a shit defense that is unimaginable for. And I know he has a lot to do, but Shea's the worst Thunder starter defender, but Shea's a really good defender, and he's scoring. Like, it was tough for me. I think I could have been swayed if I had a vote to Jokic. But I just remember just watching these Knicks games up close and personal, and him just, like, not giving a shit when people drove to the rim.
Well, so the two Knicks games in particular are definitely nods against Jokic. Where the Knicks put up their season high in points in the first game.
He was so bad.
Well, they were targeting him the second time. And now I do want to add the caveat that Malone played him the entire second half. Because remember, he got 3 fouls early and then just like came out early in the second or third quarter in the first quarter.
Yeah.
They came back in midway through the second quarter. He comes back in with 3 fouls and just played the entire rest of the game.
Yeah.
And it's what, so I went Jokic. I have from the production vote, I guess. But like, I picked Jokic, and I can't believe I'm saying this. Them firing everybody with a week left was like, wow, you had that season with all of that going on behind.
No, you're right. You're right. And that was like, that's been going on for years. Like that was, I think I'd seen other people tweet it, but like that was the worst kept secret in basketball was that those two did not like each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Your coach is playing guys that are in spite of what the front office wants. Yes. The front office is giving guys that the coach doesn't want. And you're just like, all right, I'm going to average 30, 13, and 11 for the entire season and shoot like 56, 42, 80. Like it's one of those things where as much as I didn't think there was a wrong answer for MVP, I think we just need to get away from the like, here's you're wrong and here's why. Yeah. It's like, you know what? There's 2 good answers, and that's why I'm glad this pod represented both answers.
100%. No, go ahead.
Your Clippers, by the way, your former Clippers are plus 1,000 to win the conference. I've been staring at that it was plus 1,500 before they beat the Warriors, and now it's at plus 1,000 according to Fanatics Sportsbook.
I loved getting Bogdanovich at the deadline. Harden's been really good. Kawhi has been really good.
Zubac's been
really good. Norm Powell's been really like, and Ty Lue can coach, man, like that. Listen, if I was a betting man, I'm not going to tell any of you guys to bet, but if I found $10 on the ground and I wasn't a reporter because I'm not trying to get Jonte Portered, that's a good bet. Yeah. $10 on the Clippers at a plus 1,000. Listen, I like that team a lot.
Yeah, I'm growing in that direction as well, especially since second round they'd play the Thunder and
get it out the way if you can.
You find out right away, like, this is how battle tested either team is.
Yep.
James Edwards III of The Athletic. I was glad that we finally got to do this.
Yeah, man. Anything
you have for people watching will know this. So people listening, I'll describe it. You have so many shoe boxes behind you, and
yes,
I see a lot of Nike. So I'm not a shoe head anymore. I used to work at Dick's Sporting Goods, so I got some sneakers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like the most novice of like, oh, this looks good. That was never like a specific order to why I bought things and how often I bought them. But I got as much as 13 pairs and was like, I need to donate some of these.
No, I respect that. Yeah.
So like, I respect people that stick with the collection. I always ask this of people that are like, specific Nike heads. Do you get annoyed if like I was wearing an Under Armour hoodie and Nike shorts and Adidas socks and like Reebok sneakers?
So I don't get annoyed. Live your life. But I will say, so I'm a big New Balance fan too. So if you look over what would be your right shoulder on the screen, those 6 to the right are all New Balances.
Got it. Okay.
I won't wear Nike socks with them.
Oh,
but I'm not making fun of anybody that does. But I will say this: I have a lot of shoes, but also the other half is I turned my girlfriend into a sneakerhead too. So like the other half of this wall is hers too.
Gotcha. You'll find this out when we eventually meet and potentially open summer league. Yeah. Everything I own is Under Armour, and it's not of any like loyalty to the brand. It's that when I worked at Dick's Sporting Goods, you had to like wear what was comfortable. And I'm a sweaty dude that like their socks are entirely too comfortable. Their shoes,
I love their
the quarter zips. Like Knicks fans have probably already figured this out. Every polo and quarter zip that I wear on this show is got an Under Armour logo right there. So Under Armour, please sponsor the pod. You clearly have a loyal listener.
Come on, Steph.
Please, and like come do the pod. Maybe come to the Knicks too. Personally, like I'll just all those recruits I could do. James, I say this as heartfelt as I can. Go Tigers. Especially when they're playing the Yankees.
Yep.
And thank you so much for joining me here on the Knicks Film School pregame show.
Hey, man. First of all, thank you for having me. Secondly, you guys do an amazing job, as you know. And third, I just want to say thank you for your support and just getting to know you. I know we haven't met yet, but we talk a lot.
Yeah.
Fred and everything. And just since I've come here and your support, it's meant a lot. So thank you for that. And yeah, I have a story coming on Friday, a profile on Jalen Brunson that I've been working on to lead into the playoffs. So check that out. There's stuff up on the site now that I've written all week. So go to The Athletic, go to my Twitter, JL Edwards III, and check all that out. And thank you again for having me, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you to James, and thank you to everybody for tuning in for another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. If you're watching this video, please like it and remember to subscribe. 2 very quick announcements. If you are trying to get extra bonus coverage throughout the playoffs and want it at a discounted rate, we are running a Patreon promotion for the first month that you are subscribed to the Knicks Film School Patreon. Whatever tier it is 51% off for the 51 wins the Knicks got this season. So Monroe, Mello, Brunson, and the jersey numbers match the total per month. Cut that basically in half, 51% off for your next month of coverage. And then, of course, this Saturday at T-Squared Social, we will be live watching the Knicks take on the Detroit Pistons. Tip-offs at 6 o'clock. Get there at 5, get there at 4, get there early, get there at noon if you want to watch the 2 games ahead of the Knicks game, so you can reserve your seat, or at least find your seat and make sure you're there throughout the entire time. So be there or be T-Squared. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll be back in the not too distant future previewing something, because that's what we do here on the pregame pod. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.